In 1938, in Silver City, New Mexico, 4 children, including Ann Alley, watched as a strange gray figure flew over them. In 1980, she penned a letter to the Center for UFO Studies regarding what she saw that day. We all saw him. He was dressed all in gray, and he even seemed gray. He was drifting or floating at treetop level. The thing I remember most about him was that he seemed to be wearing a belt, which was wide and had points sticking out of it. He also seemed to be wearing a cape, a la Flash Gordon. He drifted across the sky above us, and we all stood and stared, speechless. It did not occur to us to question the phenomena. As children, we accepted it. Around 1965, many years after the encounter, Allie decided to tell her husband about what she had seen that day back in 1938. While retelling it, she realized how absurd it sounded, and she began to wonder how much of it was actually real. She seriously questioned if she had maybe dreamt the whole thing. Just in case, I called my brother. By now I was about 35, he about 32. I prefaced my conversation by telling him that I had a strange story to tell, and perhaps it had all been a dream, but that I thought that in about 1938 that I had seen a man fly over our heads. He stopped me and said it wasn't a dream. He went on to describe everything as I have described it here, including the belt and the cape. While reading this account, I was reminded of another weird flying man story. This one was actually sent to me by somebody who watches my videos. He uses the handle Heavy Metal Dude. I will read his account verbatim. When I was around 3 or 4 years old, living in Western Sydney in Australia, Casula to be precise, I remember going out to the backyard with my mother and one of her friends late in the afternoon. All 3 of us were looking at a humanoid figure floating in the sky. I couldn't tell how far away or how high it was, but what I remember well was that it looked like a man dressed up like a clown and holding on to strings that were attached to balloons. As an adult, I still find it strange how a grown man could be floating through the sky in a straight line. The other thing is, my mother told me a few years ago that I had a fear of clowns when I was little. I wish the poster had sent along more details, namely what made him believe it was a man and not a life-size balloon that he saw. Also, what did his mother remember about the sighting? One night in 1952, U.S. Air Force Private Sinclair Taylor was on guard duty at Camp Okobu, near Kyoto, Japan. The moon was full. About 100 yards away, Taylor could make out the figure of Guard Private Anthony Groves on the next post. At that point, he stopped to light a cigarette, and that's when he heard a loud flapping noise. He looked up to see an enormous bird in the moonlight. When it approached, he became so frightened that he put a round into the chamber of his carbine. The bird suddenly stopped its flight. It remained hovering in the sky, not far from Taylor. It appeared to be staring at him. That thing, which now had started to slowly descend again, had the body of a man. It was well over 7 feet from head to feet, and its wingspread was almost equal to its height. I started to fire and emptied my carbine where the thing hit the ground, but when I looked up to see if my bullets found home, there was nothing there. When the sergeant of the guard came to investigate and heard the story, he told Taylor that he believed him. As he revealed to Taylor, only 1 year earlier another guard had reported seeing the exact same creature. Even though Taylor did not know of this other sighting and had no contact with the other witness, the descriptions of the creature were remarkably similar. Interestingly, residents living around Camp Okubo had reported seeing what they believed to be giant birds and strange lights in the sky. The sightings continued for the next couple of years and then seemed to stop as suddenly as they started. In 2014, a student at the Six Flags amusement park near Maryland observed a huge winged man that he described as, quote, hairy and black. At first he assumed it was a toy, possibly a bat-wing type of balloon. But as it flew over and away from the park, he suddenly realized that what he was looking at was not a balloon, but something huge and very real. He guessed the wingspan to be about 20 feet, if not bigger. He was certain that other people had seen the entity, given how crowded the park was. In 1991, a man in the Bronx in New York had just returned from riding his motorcycle. It was nighttime. He locked up his bike and began making his way up the driveway toward his home, somewhere around Andrews Avenue, when he observed a, quote, dark shadow with large wings flying through the air. Despite the wings, the creature appeared to have a human-like body. He then noticed a large dog, a Doberman Pinscher, running in his direction. He assumed the dog was coming for him, and he hopped a 4-foot gate and tumbled into the garden on the other side, scratching up his motorcycle helmet and injuring his left leg in the process. That's when he realized the dog wasn't coming after him. It was actually running from the winged creature. The witness claims he heard the loud flapping from the creature as it eventually caught the dog near a tree. He noted that the creature had long nails. Frightened, the man claims he began to pray and closed his eyes. He then heard loud flapping sounds. When he opened his eyes, the creature and the dog were gone. He noticed that there was blood on the tree, he assumed from the dog. Even now, nearly 20 years later, the man is still disturbed by what he saw that night. I'm almost 50 years old now. I thought it would go away, but no, it's still in my head.